well-known friend of the Institute. Some of you may have met him before. He just mentioned that he first came here 20 years ago and then talking about a possible order on the referendum on parliamentary or presidential system in Brazil.
And monarchy.
And monarchy also, which was part of that. And a lot has happened in Brazil since then. I think this is the subject of some... the subject of today's seminar, I think, illustrates very much how much this Brazil has advanced from, let's say, searching for an institutional solution that happened in the early 90s to today's more consolidated situation, where focus is perhaps much more on social development and similar issues. Very warm welcome. Let me also take this opportunity to introduce Maria Therese Gustafsson, who is now in charge of the seminars for our institute, the open seminars as it is, and
no lo puedo creer. No lo puedo creer. No lo puedo creer. Ahí está Mike también.
That's no problem. Thank you very much for joining us. My name, just quickly, my name is Fredrik Uggla. I'm the director of the Institute, and again, welcome. Let me just hand over briefly to Maria Therese Gustafsson, who will say something more about the coming seminars and how we work here.
Yes. The coming seminars, we are just planning for the spring seminars now, but in about 2 weeks we will have Sandra Torres here. About 3 weeks, I'm sorry, the 14th of February. And she will talk about the social programs in Guatemala. So it will be very interesting to follow up on this subject that we will discuss today here. And then we have another presentation, Kenneth Hermele, who will also present about Brazil and about land struggles and different struggles about land. And then we have another presentation also later in the semester that will be about Ecuador and the Shuar people and population policies of the Ecuadorian state. So we will, if you're on the list, you will get information through email on all those activities. So I would please ask you to fill in your name here, and if you're not on the email, I suppose you are as you came here today, if you didn't see the small affiche at the university, but please you could fill in your name, your email address here as well. So as Fredrik mentioned, today the subject of this presentation is political and strategic dimensions of poverty and inequality reduction in Brazil. And Professor Pedone, who received his PhD from the University of Massachusetts, will talk about this interesting subject today.
Thank you very much. Well, it is a great honor to be here at the Institute of Latin American Studies at the University, invited by Fredrik Uggla, the new director. And it's a great pleasure to have such a nice group of persons, including my old friend Horacio del Valle, whom 20 years ago made me. Just about. No more than that. No more than that. And then again in Rio we met when he was there 10 years ago, and now here. Great pleasure. Well, this is, as Fredrik said, don't mind if I call you for the first time.
No, please. We are on a first name basis.
Said it's a period of change this past 20 years since the first time I came here. It's a period that we stabilized our economy. It's a period that social programs were started. Huge program in economic side of stabilization of the money, but also getting rid of the rotten side of the banking system, the state banking system, and getting privatization of the major companies in key sectors, telecommunications, mining, steel, some energy companies, most of them, but not all. privatization programs that went on since Fernando Henrique started, or even earlier, with the Tamar Franco. And also social programs. I will go very briefly over these social programs, social policies between these last 15, 17 years. Very briefly, you know most of these. The most known is the Bolsa Familia program, the family purse, family scholarship program, which is a combination of things that started back in the 90s in Campinas with the PSDB mayor, guaranteed income programs. Then Cristóvão Buarque in Brasilia in 95, 96 started the school allowance program. And then in the Senate, Senator Antônio Carlos Magalhães started this national minimum income. And the national school allowance went on. The Hunger Zero program, which is really a foul program for the agriculture organization, UN organization, in the Lula campaign of 2002 was important. Then cooking gas program. All this were put together by Lula during his 8-year period. And they are mechanisms of transfers. They have conditionalities to poverty alleviation, to poverty reduction. This is a little bit of the description of the program. It's a very cheap program. It's only 1% of GDP. And it benefits 11 million families, 30 million persons, more than 30 million persons.
Sorry, could you just do that?
Yeah? Okay.
Can I just talk about the extreme poverty? That means it's targeted to
It's targeted to reduction, yeah,
yes.
Reduction of extreme poverty. And it has a conditionality of having the children under 15 in school with 85% of the presence. Typical recipient of the card. You have a card. Child labor eradication program still goes on. We have a lot of slave labor for children. About 1 million children and adolescents. My House, My Wife. Life for All. It's an electricity program for beneficiaries, 7-8 million people, and also expenses of 3.5 billion reais, which is a small portion of the budget. My House, My Life is a new program, and it's targeted to reach 1 million housing units. I wrote this back in 2010, and it is targeted still to go up to 1 million units, but it didn't reach that. It's lagging behind. Implementation is very bad. Civil construction is an area that is very riddled with corruption. Heavy construction of infrastructure or civil constructions is riddled with corruption in Brazil. So there are problems of implementation. Dilma is having huge problems on that.
A question?
Can we leave for later the questions? Let me go through the presentation, then I'll be happy to answer them. This is an education. The schooling system to combat illiteracy is a reinsertion of young adults, 15 or older, into the schooling system to combat illiteracy. 9 million persons beneficiary from that. University for those who were unable to enter university. We had like a gate up until 10 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. There was a gate called vestibular. Many of you are familiar with the name. It was an entrance examination. Everybody who was 18 years old, finished high school, had to do this vestibular. And let's say there were about 1 million candidates and only 100,000 persons would go in. 10% of the candidates would go into federal universities or public state universities. Not the private sector, but the public universities. This has changed dramatically in the past 10 years. We have now, this week, 1 million, more than 1 million candidates who are eligible to go into the universities in the federal public system or the state level public system, and they are looking for vacancies in 150 public universities in Brazil to do engineering courses, medicine courses, social science, history, literature, etc., etc. All courses. 1 million persons, 1 million young students that just came out of high school, of all levels, public or private. They could have studied in Santo Inácio, the Jesuit school, very good school in Rio, or they could have studied in a public school in the surroundings of Rio de Janeiro. Doesn't matter. They are all candidates that can go into the public system. 1 million new students just this year. And the educational system that was about 500,000, 600,000, 10, 15 years ago, now is more than 6 million persons in the university system. Some statistics about schooling, poverty, and race. This is on the objectives of the millennium, March 2010 in Brazil. You can find this report on UN Brazil, UNDP Brazil. Of the social programs, I gather that as important as they are, they took a lot of people out of poverty. They brought 30 million persons into economic life. I read the other day, there are 42 million new bank accounts in the past 10 years. So people that came out of poverty and opened a bank account. 42 million. That's not a small number.